Call back into session our county commission meeting. Madam Clerk, I believe all commissioners are present, so we will continue with the general government non-consent resolutions.
Okay, we're on page 8, item number 40, resolution R-22-2-805 is regarding the issuance of not to exceed $87,040,000 general obligation bonds of Knox County, Tennessee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Jay with a second by Commissioner Smith. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we have the Knox County Law Director, since he stayed with us the entire time, to come to the podium and just give the 2-second overview? I said it again, the Knox County Law.
Chris,
The Knox
who knows what
County.
this means, but
God, I've elevated you twice in 2 different meetings. The Knox County Finance Director. Excuse me. I don't know why that. I'm like, what? You can tell it's
Come
getting
on
late
down. Oh,
in the
my
day.
goodness. He must be bringing
Anyways,
the
he
bonds
was
with
going to
him.
give us the 2 seconds on where the money is going, the dollars for the schools and the dollars for the capital plan. No, I'm not.
come on down, Mr. Caldwell.
Come on, Law Director.
No. So the $87 million bond issue is basically $28.7 million of county projects and $58.3 million of school projects. And that includes 4.5 million of 5-year major equipment money. And so we hope to go to market probably early April. And so maybe to mid-April, we'll start ratings calls in March with Moody's and S&P and update them and see what they could come back with and go to market for some 20-year fixed rate bonds.
Thank you, Director Caldwell.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Jay with a second by Commissioner Smith to approve. This does require a roll call vote. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Daly, your light is on, sir. Oh, thank you. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Durrett. Aye. Commissioner Durrett votes aye. Commissioner Smith. Aye. Commissioner Smith votes aye. Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Ward votes aye. Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Commissioner Schoonmaker votes aye. Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Hill votes aye. Commissioner Bustler.
Aye.
Commissioner Bustler votes aye. Commissioner Beeler.
Aye.
Commissioner Beeler votes aye. Commissioner Daly. Commissioner Daly votes aye. Commissioner Jay.
Aye.
Commissioner Jay votes aye. Commissioner Biggs. Commissioner Biggs votes aye. Commissioner Lundy. Aye. Commissioner Lundy votes aye. All members present voting aye.
Vote is 11-0, and that item passes. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Item number 41 is R-22-2-806. It's authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds of Knox County, Tennessee in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $87,040,000 in one or more series, making provision for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium, if any, and interest on the bond.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Schoonmaker with a second by Commissioner Smith. Is there any discussion of this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Smith? Aye. Commissioner Smith votes aye. Commissioner Ward?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward votes aye. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Schoonmaker votes aye. Commissioner Hill? Commissioner Hill votes aye. Commissioner Bustler?
Aye.
Commissioner Bustler votes aye. Commissioner Beeler?
Aye.
Commissioner Beeler votes aye. Commissioner Daly? Commissioner Daly votes aye. Commissioner Jay?
Aye.
Commissioner Jay votes aye. Commissioner Biggs? Commissioner Biggs votes aye. Commissioner Lundy? Aye. Commissioner Lundy votes aye. Commissioner Durrett? Aye. Commissioner Durrett votes aye. All members present voting aye.
Vote is 11-0. That item passes. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
It's number 42, Resolution R-22-2-902, authorizing the Knox County Law Director to hire expert outside counsel to assist the Law Director in all litigation regarding mask mandates.
Madam Clerk, Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward. I'll second that motion from the chair. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bussley.
Hey, Mr. Chair. We're authorizing some money to be spent. Now, let me ask why, okay? We have had the same issue that the governor of the state of Tennessee or the attorney general has argued before the same judge of mask mandates and was turned down by this federal judge. This judge was shocked to get one to put this in the hopper. And they could have done it here in Knox County, but they didn't. They did it in Greene County because they had some way of getting this judge to stop the county schools. That's number one. The attorney general argued it there. The attorney general argued the same thing in Middle Tennessee, and the judge turned him down there. And in Memphis, they turned him down there. The legislature passed legislation to do away with masks. And a judge in Middle Tennessee, a federal judge, stopped it there. Now, let me ask you, that was the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee. That was the legislature of the state of Tennessee. Now, I have not heard, and I'm using this from somebody else I heard this from, no lawyer ever stood up in any of our arguments that was placed to us to say, I can do it, or I have a way of getting this passed on. Second thing is, no one here has said the person or a name of a person that can do better than the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee. Now, we can start right now, and it'll take at least 3, maybe 4 months for a lawyer to get up to speed on this. By the 31st of May, when school's out, it goes away. Now, hey, you can start now, and it's 3 or 4 months down the road, school will be out.
Gallery, please be in order. Allow the commissioners to have discussion. Thank you.
So I'm for it. I don't like it. I wouldn't have my kids in masks for nothing. And I would take them out of school and put it in private schools if I had kids to where they wouldn't have to wear masks. But the problem of it is you're going to go ahead and hire somebody and go back to that judge when these judges will not hear it. They have requested more time in front of the judge to argue these what was brought up before us tonight. And I even asked, the same issues that you brought up, or they was brought up tonight, was also argued by the law firms that's here in Knox County's courthouse. And they would not be heard by the judge. These federal judges don't have to listen to any of us. They can put it back up. Now, what I'm saying is here, I don't want the masks to go on. But you got to remember one thing. There was 4 people here in Knoxville that said they could control all the parents in Knox County. All we had to do is find a judge that would pass it and would stand up and not hear the case again. They found that judge. Now, they've gone through the appeals program. They've done all this here through our law firm. We can start it again. We can vote for them to spend that money, but you're not going to have that case heard till after school's out anyway.
Guys, please, no more outbursts from the gallery or I will clear the room. If a commissioner disagrees with what you've said, that is their prerogative. You've had your say. We've listened to you patiently. Please allow the commissioners to have debate on this issue.
What I'm saying, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm saying is elections count. We have less than 30% of the population of Knox County vote during any election, and even in federal elections. And the federal people are the ones that appointed these judges. Now, you can start now and make it go try to get these people that have put this in here, that has put you in this situation, out of office. You've got a voice. Use that voice and make sure that anybody tries it again, that they're going to be heard from you all. Now, if I thought 100% that we could have some person that could do better and do the appeals better, I would want that person in here. But who is that person? Who is that person that can do that? Who is that person that can argue it? And when you find them in any law firm, they're going to take 3 to 4 months before they can get it. And even if they get there, we don't even know if they will be heard, if they can get to that appeals process. So I want to say, you know, I'm a lot older than a lot of you people out there, and I've gone through a lot of things, and I've seen a lot of things. But we have not been really active in our government. And the only time we ever get active in our government is when something affects us. And I want to take, like I said, I am for you all. I want the mask gone. But why would you go down to a brick wall and stand there and beat on it when you don't have the hammer to really get it out? And that's my thought right here. You can vote, you can spend your money the way the thing reads. And 3 months from now, maybe it goes away the 31st when school's out. But the only other way we can get this done is, I believe, what is it? What can we do? Hopefully, I'm talking to Mr. Boyers here. What can we do to hope for to get this thing over with?
Well, let me start by saying, first, let me ask,
Can't hear you.
did everybody get the report that Law Director Booth sent out over the weekend?
Yeah.
That lays out what the Law Director's office has done? Unlike 40 filings, hundreds of pages of legal argument and briefing. I want to say that David Book and David Sanders and Amanda Morse, who've worked on this case, do not disagree with anything that was said today about wearing masks. Nobody in our office wants this, but we were kind of ambushed. We got served by this on a Friday and we had to be in court by a Wednesday. And we asked the judge for more time. He didn't give it to us. So we've had to work with what we have. Now, I will tell you, for those who don't know, that before I came here this time, I spent about 15 years being a judge myself. And things don't always go your way, but one thing sorry about that. I still can't get used to the way they changed the buttons since the last time I was here. Once the judge makes a decision, he's going to want something that he thinks is a change before he's going to change his mind. Because when you go back to the judge, you're saying, Judge, here's why you're wrong. And I can tell you, judges, it takes a bit to get them there. And the thing that was interesting to me when I read this opinion is within the first paragraph of the judge's opinion, he points out that the county was voting not to have a mask mandate, although it was recommended by the CDC, the American Association of Pediatrics, and the Knox County Board of Health. Now that's telling to me because it suggests that that's what the judge wants to see as a change in circumstance. I think that these organizations are moving in that direction because the numbers are changing. And I know that we are in the process, without talking too much, about going back to the court. But I have not heard, apart from just the general idea that if we had somebody else, maybe things would be different. I have not heard any arguments that a judge is going to recognize at this point that are going to change this judge's mind. And we're going to try, and we're working on going back. We have filed various motions. They've been shot down. We filed an appeal with the Sixth Circuit, and we asked for the Sixth Circuit to dissolve the injunction while we were waiting to get the case on appeal, and the Sixth Circuit summarily dismissed that too. And as Commissioner Bussler was saying, it's not just us. Next to us in that case in Knox County was, at least in spirit, the governor of the state of Tennessee, being represented by the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee and all of the assets and resources at that Attorney General's command. And he lost too. And he not only lost in East Tennessee, but he lost in Middle Tennessee, and he lost in West Tennessee. With all the resources of the Attorney General of the state of Tennessee's office. They haven't sought outside counsel. And then the state legislature passed a statute saying no mask mandates. And guess what? Another federal judge in Middle Tennessee stopped it. Again, although it was being defended by the Attorney General and all the resources at his command. One last thing, and this is difficult for me because I don't disagree, and I know that Mr. Book does not disagree with the people who find it extraordinarily frustrating that we are stuck with this at the time being. And we are taking every prudent step to get it reversed. But I want to say one last thing. There's been a lot of talk today about the school board wants this. The school board wants this. The school board has not voted. The school board has not asked this commission for outside counsel. The school board has not. And this resolution gives the school board something that it hasn't asked for. And I think that bears consideration, that if the school board wants outside counsel, the school board should say that in an official way by a vote of its members, which is the only way a corporate body like this body acts. That hasn't happened yet at this point. So I'm happy to answer any other questions anybody has, but that's, having listened to everybody today and having felt your pain and frustration, those are the things that I felt it was important to say on behalf of my.
Thank you, Mr. Moyers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bussler. I believe Commissioner Ward is next, and then Commissioner Durrett.
Bussler's
Oh, well, I thought you were finished when you sat back. I'm sorry.
I said thank him for that piece of information. So what we have before us is a request by 3 individuals, not the school board. Is that correct?
That is correct. Well, it was by one individual. I can't speak for the other 2 that showed up at the meeting.
It's only one.
It was by the sheriff.
So we're voting on something that's not really been asked for us to do properly. So
Thank you.
I'm through, man.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. I'll speak to those 2 comments real quick. I don't believe we're giving the school board anything besides options in their tool belt. Give them, they still have to vote to do this. It's still their call. We're just giving them power to make the decision. We're not making the decision for them. They're making the decision. For all this, I always want to remember, I'm elected by people, and the people are the ones that are coming to us saying that we're frustrated, that we're tired of this. We want somebody else. You know, that's who I'm elected by. That's who I represent. So if this is what the people want, and I've had more people reach out to me now than I had during COVID 2 years ago, and we all went through that together, and we saw how that was. There's more people tonight than there was during that time period. So, and you know, there's a bunch of us stuck to our guts then, and we were proven right down the road. I feel like we're in a similar position that I want to stick to my guts again, knowing that I'm doing the right thing, and we'll see what happens down the road. But I'm not making a decision for the school board. I'm just giving them an option, and they, as a collective group, who are also elected officials by the people, will then have to make a decision for themselves whether to utilize this or not utilize this. If it was up to me, I would give them the power to both hire outside counsel or hire outside counsel to help the current counsel. I would give them every option possible. That's my personal opinion on all of this.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward. Commissioner Durrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So tonight we are voting on an updated or revised version of the resolution from
From last
Tuesday.
week, absolutely.
And so I'm currently trying to go through the changes that were made and compare the two. And please correct me if I'm wrong in
Certainly.
these changes. The one change is that we are voting on to hire an attorney to further assist the law director rather than replacing the law director. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That the Board of Education must vote to approve the choice of the law director's chosen attorney. Is that correct?
That is how the resolution reads, yes.
And then that any funds that will be necessary for said outside counsel or for said advisory council would come from the Board of Education.
That is also correct.
Those are, am I missing it?
I don't believe there's another change. No.
Will
I mean,
it go to the Board of Education to decide if they want to do this, or will it?
No,
I
absolutely.
believe there's a line in there that says that the resolution does not take effect unless and until the Board of Education approves it.
That's correct. Yes.
I was just
Thank you,
looking
Ms.
for
Ward.
that. I just see it where it says it won't take effect if they don't approve the chosen counsel.
That's before that, I believe,
Okay.
Commissioner. I'm going to look back.
I thought I had seen it. I just don't see it now. And so that was,
Second. Thank you, Commissioner.
yeah, that's, okay. Got it. So
We do.
Again, and kind of going off what Commissioner Ward says, one additional tool in the tool belt for this litigation that's before us. My support in this resolution is completely separate from the lawsuit against the Board of Education and the subject matter to which it pertains. Rather, my support for this resolution is solely based on the basic fundamentals of governmental operations and the separation of powers. I am of the opinion, and based on my experience working for the city law department, that Knox County Law Department exists to represent various departments of Knox County government, that the Board of Education is an elected body, not necessarily a county department, and therefore should at minimum be given the authority to acquire separate counsel in legal matters if desired by said board and by full board's approval, especially in matters in which the law department may be in conflict of interest. And so that's why I will support this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Durrett. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. Mr. Moyers, when does this order end, Judge Greer's?
It is a temporary restraining order that will end when we have a hearing, well, either when the Sixth Circuit reverses it or when we have a full hearing on a permanent situation, which the judge has not yet set.
Okay. So it is not unreasonable to think that it could go into the next school year.
I don't think that's likely to happen because I think that either Judge Greer or the Sixth Circuit is going to act on it before then. But can I say it's possible? Sure, it's possible. Anything's possible.
Okay, thank you. I do note, and really not to sound redundant, that the resolution, we are authorizing outside counsel to assist. And it wouldn't make sense for outside counsel, if in fact this occurs, to be someone that I wouldn't think that the school board and law director could agree on, because after all, they're going to have to all work together. So you would hope that that would almost be without saying, but I get that should be in there. I strongly support what our mayor's spoke to last week in just the additional bandwidth. Sometimes you just need a little more help. I can only imagine with our law department already having their hands full with your 10 or 12 attorneys trying to do everything you've done to defend and take care of Knox County government. And then heard Mr. Book say last week that all 10 of their attorneys have been working almost full time on it. So at any rate, it's almost like I would hope that they would welcome the fact that this could happen. Also, the resolution does state that if this occurs through these other caveats, that Knox County schools will in fact carry the financial burden of it. So that is another thing that may in fact almost encourage our law department to accept other counsel in this matter. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been an interesting discussion tonight, and I'm glad to have heard from our community. It was also interesting to watch the school board meeting last time when they debated this. And almost immediately, the school board voted to support the law director's position and team, and then immediately a few people came and this resolution is by way of the chair, who, after their board said, go forth and continue on, took a different course. So it has been interesting to watch. I also find it a little ironic that many of the same people that argued a long time in the last referendum that we must elect our law director are the exact same, many of the same groups who are now, we want other options, and that we, instead of appointing a law director, and that's a whole different discussion. But I have a question for Mr. Moyer. Is this just to be clear, this is not a blanket authorization for all outside counsel. It has to be specific to this particular case.
That
And
is-
if they wanted any further outside counsel, they would still have to go back in 6 months. They wanted outside counsel for something else. They would still have to come back to this body.
That is correct. Under our charter and under the previous litigation between the school board and this county commission that occurred almost exactly 20 years ago, that is the case, yes, sir.
Okay. I think it's a good point. I think it was Commissioner Durrett said, that talked about that this is really only in effect if now it goes back and the Board of Education has to approve it to even start the process. And then, it is going to go back and forth and back and forth. So if they do this, if we do this, they're going to do that, then the law director is going to do that. I mean, it's probably going to be June or July by the time we get to who might be the counsel, but that's their decision. That's not our decision. So I understand that. Ultimately, I think it may turn out to be an exercise in futility and be resources that the school could be better spent in the classroom, because it may be resolved by the time we get through this back and forth. But I'm inclined to give them an option to hold their own destiny and to make those decisions by themselves, and be accountable for those decisions. So I'm inclined to support it. And if the Board of Education wants to go down that path and spend the money and go through the exercise, that ultimately is up to their decision. We're not the school board. So I'm inclined to support it. And as Commissioner Ward said, give them a tool in the toolbox. If they decide to use it, great. But what will be interesting is if it goes back to them and then they vote and they don't pass it to take action, everybody who came to us tonight is going to come right back to us. And we are not the school board. And we have to really understand that we are the legislative body. We are not the education body, which is an education body for the state education system. It's not, a local issue. So I'm inclined to support it. I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Mr. Biggs, you're next, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Beeler. I've got a couple questions and then, let's just start off. Either Director Caldwell or Ron from schools, one of the two. I just want something explained to me real quick. Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Ron's smarter than me, so I'll probably let him answer, but go ahead and ask your question.
It's a BEP funding question.
It's going away.
Ron or Chris, so we all hear about the BEP funding and things of that nature and students in schools. At what point does, or can it affect our funding for our schools with the 3,000 students and families that have switched out of Knox County schools?
Thank you, Commissioner. If I understand your question, are you saying, will a reduction in enrollment?
Yes.
It does. I can't give you an exact figure because the BEP is so fluid with respect to, they don't fund it on a per pupil level. I mean, you can do a calculation at the end of the day. Here's what my funding is versus, and these are my student, this is the enrollment and this is how much it would average.
Yes, sir.
So they don't really do it on total enrollment. They do it on components, within that BEP formula. But I can say, yes, a reduction in enrollment would correspond to less funding.
Okay, that's the answer I wanted. And I'm good. I don't need you. So I just wanted that answer. And the reason being is because I have a major fear. We just heard minutes ago that if this doesn't get handled, that there is a possibility that it could go into next year's school year. And I do feel like if we see this possibility, that we will have a large exodus of kids go to private schools or go to other schools or go homeschool. And we just heard that it could and will affect the funding to our Knox County schools. So I'm reading the room and I feel like we're all in agreement that we need to do this. And I'm glad that we're all in agreement that we need to do this. I feel like we've been fighting this fight for a little while, but there's one thing in the resolution that I don't see that I would like to see. It says, be it further resolved that this attorney shall have experience in cases involving the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Is there anything that says that they have had prior federal law experience in federal court?
Well, both of those are federal acts.
So-
So it kind of implies.
Well, I guess.
But I mean, here's the thing. If this passes, and if the Board of Education passes it, we will work with the Board of Education to find somebody. We're not going to hire somebody off a billboard. I mean, we're going to find somebody
Right.
who can help.
It-
If that's what the commission decides to do. We're going to find somebody who can assist because that's the spirit and the wording, the letter of the statute.
So, and the reason I ask that is because, you have people that are experts in different counties, Sevierville and other areas and Nashville and stuff like that. And I feel like you're hopefully going to get the best, but I said it last week and I'll stand by it again, that all hands on deck, just like Kyle said, just like Commissioner Ward said, add another tool to the tool belt. Even Larson stated it too, that I don't think that this is a bad idea. And from what I've heard you say tonight, you guys aren't really opposed to having more help. You're not saying, no, we don't want any additional help. You are just saying that you want to get to the end of this and see the light at the end of the tunnel is basically what I've kind of.
The position of the law director's office is we do not believe that this is necessary. But if the commission wishes to do this, and if the Board of Education wants to do this, then we are at your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Biggs. Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I talked to Director Review last week, and I think we all know that he is not giving up his case. So the school board and the parents need to know that this is be an advisory position to the school board or to the law department. I'm sorry, the law department. It will be advisory. They will not be taking over the case because he's not going to give it up. So just keep in mind that it's an advisory. It will be an advisory position. Will it help? I don't know. Will it hurt? Probably not. So we'll leave it up to the school board to decide which way they want to go, but just keep in mind that it's an advisory position only.
Thank you, Commissioner Daly. Recognize Commissioner Schoonmaker, and obviously if anyone else wants to speak, I would like to make the final comment or two as the sponsor of the resolution.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman. I'm glad that the resolution gives the opportunity now to the Board of Education to hire or not to hire legal counsel. I think that's a smart idea. I had one email that came into me earlier in the week, and very heartfelt comments. And like many of you, I was like, okay, well, who's an attorney that's an expert in ADA issues? So I threw that back to this parent, and she came back with a name of somebody here locally. But then again, the other name came from an attorney that's in Pennsylvania. So in a way, that's kind of out of the question because they're not familiar with the way Tennessee law works and all that. But anyways, I thought it was interesting that the attorneys that filed the suit against Knox County, Justin Gilbert, who's the lead attorney, he has his office in Knox County. But his co-counsel, what's the second term of an attorney? Co-counsel? Okay, co-counsel, Jessica Salonis, she's from Jackson, Tennessee. So they've found somebody still in Tennessee, but not in Knox County, that was able to help them initially with this lawsuit. And of course, as a parent of now 2 grown children, I was really taken by the public outcry, not only what we heard tonight, but what we've gotten from texts and emails and phone calls. And I really hated that parents who have been big supporters of Knox County schools have now had to remove their children from their classrooms and their friends. And if I'm looking at the numbers, we've lost 5% of our student population now that has gone to private schools, homeschooling, whatever, that they're not in Knox County schools anymore. And that's a very disturbing number to me because that's huge. So I think I'm in agreement with everybody else. I think we need to give the Board of Education the opportunity, if they wish, to hire or not hire an attorney to assist the law director's office.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lundy.
Thank you, Chairman. I guess I just feel compelled just to speak on why we be voting yes for this resolution. Doesn't mean that I agree with the judge or disagree with the judge, but I do believe that people have the right to advocate for what they believe in. But I do want to say this. COVID, no one asked for this. No one asked for the mask. We didn't know this was coming. And I'm just ready for us to come together. No matter what happens with this, I hope we still focus on our kids learning in a positive environment, and everyone has an opportunity to learn. And let's not forget that this situation, we all have lessons that we have learned. And this exposed the inequities that happens in Knox County and the schools and whatever. I just hope that we move on from this, however it goes, and make sure that we create a positive environment for all of our students in an equitable environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. And I just bring this up because Commissioner Schoonmaker and Biggs brought this up. And Ron, you may not know this if you're even still hiding over there, but is that Bob I see over there? Have we actually had a net loss of 5%? I know that we lose thousands of students. They withdraw for any number of reasons every year, but we have almost as many enrolled. So I would like some clarification on that number.
Mr. Oaks.
Yes, ma'am. I want to talk about a number I know something about, and it's not It's not withdrawals. When you look at withdrawals, you like you alluded to, you have to look at enrollments as well. So you have to look at a net number. I haven't looked at that. What we do look at every day is our enrollment, and and I'm just going to use a general number because I don't remember it specifically off the top of my head, but our enrollment in September was slightly over 59,000. Our enrollment today, I believe, is slightly less than 58,000. So that's what we're looking at. You know, those are real numbers that we count every day.
Thank you. And I don't say that to dispute, just merely sometimes there's another side to the number that is not included in the net.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Lundy, your light is still on. Okay. Commissioner Daly.
Hey, Russ, can I follow up on that? That number, is that including dropouts? How many, do we have a high number of dropouts? Will that number include that?
The number includes everybody that is enrolled. And if you're dropped out, you're not enrolled.
Is that a high number though?
It's, you know, it would be. I think if you look in previous years, our enrollment it will drop off a little bit from the beginning of the year to the end of the year because you'll have early graduates, and then we'll have the numbers get cleaned up, and as they get cleaned up, there's usually a drop in that number rather than an increase in that number as we clean it up at the beginning of the year. So we may lose, you know, 600 or 800 throughout the year. You generally pick it up and make it up during the enrollment in the next year, though, because of the way kids graduate and leave throughout the school year. So, you know, it's a higher number than we would normally see, but it's not 5%, I don't think, of what we're talking about. It's about 1,300 students is what we're talking about. So that's 2.5% or something like that, I think. But you're asking me to do math in public. Yeah.
Hey, could I request that information? We send it to all the commissioners.
Sure, I can send you the enrollment from any particular day and the enrollment yesterday. We run that report every day. It's yeah.
Well, you keep track of if there are dropouts, that kids actually drop out of school. Do you keep that record, that number?
That would be in their files. It's not a number that we track every day. It's something that we roll up and aggregate at the end of the year.
Well, if it's easy for you to punch a button, send it out. Appreciate it.
Well, I can, you know, I've got an email sitting in my box right now with the enrollment every day from the beginning of the school year till today. Yeah, so I'll be happy to send that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Oaks. Commissioner Smith, did you have a clarifying question?
Yes, Russ. I guess my question is, you know, it's easy to get the enrollment number, but what I'm really wondering is with the growth we've had, are those the same kids? You know what I'm saying? Are we?
Well, I can tell you they're not.
How many school-age kids have moved into the Knox County area in the last year? Because you also have to weigh that against what our enrollment numbers are.
Well, that's what we were talking about with Ms. Hill's question. When you talk about withdrawals, we also have enrollments, and then you have to get to a net number. That is not something that we look at or manage on a daily basis. Those are numbers that we can get to and massage over time, but it's not one that I can. It's not a report that we run. We would have to create several reports and work.
You just
through
mainly
that.
do the daily enrollment to send into the state, right?
I'm sorry?
The daily enrollment attendance to send into the state.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bustley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Boyers, I'm going to ask you a question here. If you are hiring somebody specifically for a case like this, like I mentioned, the Attorney General and all the resources that they have behind them. You would not be hiring one person. You'd probably be hiring a specialist that has a law firm behind them, correct?
That is a reasonable assumption, yes.
Because you want the best. And so you want a firm that is completely vetted in this type of litigation. You've also got to,
There would be no point in doing less than that. Yes,
and then you would have to have somebody that's maybe not that person, but another person to argue that case before the judge, because there's certain lawyers that can argue better in front of appeals court. Correct?
it's possible. And like I said, I don't want to speculate too much.
Okay, and the way that this thing is read right here, the school board is going to give, or we're going to give a recommendation to the school board of the lawyer we're going to hire, right?
That's correct.
So you're going to try to hire the best, right?
That is correct.
And it's going to be on their dime, right?
That is correct.
So you're going to be looking for a real good law firm.
We're going to be looking for somebody who fits the bill.
As you say, not off of a billboard, which you're talking about big bucks. And they'll sign a contract that you'll have to pay for, even if you don't get it before the end of the year. But if you want to give them that quill, that's fine. I'll be happy to support that. I want it over with soon, but it's not going to be over with soon. And that's one thing you've got to realize. It will not be hired one day and over the next day. And it does depend upon the judges. So that's my concern right here. I don't like it. I don't want it masked in the schools, but are we going to spend that kind of money when we've already got to a certain point?
All right, we do have a motion on the floor. I want to make one final comment on it as the sponsor of the resolution, and I'm going to call the vote. The purpose of this resolution is simply for this commission to authorize the school board to ask the law director to hire outside counsel if the school board votes to do so. Not one penny of Knox County's money is going to be expended unless the school board votes to do this. And I agree with Commissioner Durrett that the other significant elected body in Knox County should have that authorization. So the motion is properly before us. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Is there any other business to come before this commission? Motion to adjourn. A second. All in favor, please say aye.